Comics Inebriated, a podcast about the history of fiction and nonfiction in comics, along with current events, hosted by comic creators Liana Kangas and permanent guest Matt Emmons.
Thank you for joining the first inaugural podcast, Comics Inebriated. I am Liana Kangas. I'm one of your hosts, and I would like to introduce one of my listening guests today, Matthew Emmons.
Hello, Matthew. Makes me feel like I did something wrong.
Matt Emmons. And who I will lovingly call my small son, my baby bean. And we are joined today by a very special guest, Kate Meyers.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be your first guest and
Thank
also
you.
profoundly intimidated. This is my first ever real podcast.
What?
Yeah. Like I've been on Nurse News Talks Back, and I've been on What the Friday, which was like they ripped the audio and turned that into a podcast, but this is my first ever actual like podcast guest spot.
Oh my god, I'm so honored.
Yeah, what a treat. What a proverbial treat.
You're the first podcast that let me talk about the dumb shit that I care about, so and get drunk, so.
Right, it's just like the one step up from panels, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What are you drinking right now?
I am drinking a gin and tonic because the subject of my little lecture is English, and I felt it was important to stay on theme with a quintessentially English colonial drink. And I am drinking West Cider Gin from Dead of Night Distillery, which is a local distillery here in LA. Shop local when you can, and some Fever Tree elderflower tonic and a little slice of lemon.
That sounds like the most elegant British drink.
Yeah.
And so, are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Perfect. Sweet. Matt, you're amazing. I love you, bro. Take it away.
Okay. This topic has everything. Mystery, cute dogs, deconstructed masculinity, floral curtains, and the confusing false sense of intimacy created by the internet. This is none other than Henry Cavill's Instagram. Not exactly comics, but comics adjacent. We're going to count it. So, to set the scene, we're looking at October 2018. A dark time. We were in the final run-up to the midterm elections. The Kavanaugh hearings were happening. And out of the darkness, a hero arose to provide hope. And that hero was Henry Cavill's Instagram and a series of 5 posts, starting with Henry at the Great Wall of China, speaking directly to the viewer about a journey that he's going on of self-discovery and connecting more closely to the things he cares about, and things like love and connection and peace and the relationship between people and animals. And he invites the viewer in a very sincere way to follow him on this journey. And here's where we get the false intimacy of the internet. His delivery is sort of whispered, and if you're on your phone, you're maybe on your headphones and it's very close to you, and talking to the camera is very much like eye contact, and he's really, drawing the viewer, the follower, in to go with him on this path. This is the first week of October. The following week or so later, he posts another video. Again, extremely cryptic. It is a notebook surrounded by candles with some vaguely Celtic music playing, and a caption talking about ancestry and the importance of knowing where you're from and wanting to get closer to roots, and how that will factor into the project, the mysterious project that we're going to hear more about. And then about a week later, we get another post from Henry, sitting in his back garden, hair tousled, Cal, his beautiful American Akita, sniffing around the lawn in the background. He says he's in Hungary. I assume this is while he was shooting The Witcher. And he starts talking about peace, and how peace and feeling peaceful are important to him. And it's not something he gets very much as an actor. And that wanting to connect to peace is going to be part of this project. Okay. Again, very sort of whispered, weirdly intimate, eye contacty conversation with Henry, bringing the viewer in, bringing the viewer along. The next video is Henry, the beautiful himbo that he is, on a hike through the woods, talking about nature and how nature is important to his project and means a lot to him. And what he says, why I say he's a himbo, what he says is, by nature I mean, just regular nature and the earth are very important.
Of course.
Hard to argue. But again, it's this very, the sort of vloggy close up. He's a little out of breath because he's hiking, like weird, feels like he's speaking directly to you, kind of strange intimacy of the internet. And then the final video is this edited, like, very, like, my first iMovie sequence of footage of his dog Cal, the adorable American Akita, romping through the backyard, and there's a voiceover where he's talking about how much he loves Cal, and he would say Cal is like his son, but it's really that it's not like he's his son. He has a connection. They have a connection to each other that they've worked at, and they have this relationship, and that Cal will be an important ingredient. Ingredient is an important word, that will be part of the final project, and that Cal will always be part of him. Now, all of these posts are tagged with the phrase, my Everence. And at the time, I did a quick Google of that phrase and was presented with two results. One was a Mennonite bank, probably not it. And the second was a company called Everence Life, which will create tattoo ink from hair, DNA, and cremains, meaning ashes of dead loved ones.
Oh my god.
The ultimate.
I was trying not to interrupt, but oh my god.
That's it.
Please. I encourage you to interrupt because this is truly insane.
I've got some thoughts on that.
So the only thing that I can infer from this is that the project is a tattoo, and the way in which Cal will be with him forever is that
Oh my god.
Cal's DNA, hair, or ashes will be incorporated into this tattoo. This is October 2018. I am still totally obsessed. I discussed this on a Nerdist panel at Comic-Con last year. I am thoroughly obsessed because that is where the story ends. There is no resolution. There is no follow-up. There is no end result.
Or can we agree that it's on hiatus? Like indefinite hiatus?
I think there's an ending, but it's not for us.
Sure. But I feel this dissatisfaction in being led on this sort of being drawn in so intimately and encouraged to come along on this journey that leads nowhere. or to this point has led nowhere.
Such an enigmatic, like,
what a
path
cliffhanger. Yeah.
to nothing.
Truly. So flash forward to quarantine times.
And by quarantine, you mean 2020?
Yeah.
2020.
COVID-19.
COVID-19, the time of quarantine.
Yeah. Yes.
We get a whole new angle on Henry Cavill, where he is painting Warhammer minis. He is baking cakes. And most notably, Henry Cavill has published an Instagram TV video of himself building a PC in a way that is clearly intended in some capacity to draw the viewer in. He's set it to Barry White, which is universally considered doing it music. And you can either read that as like his metaphorical lust for this computer or encouraging the lust of the audience for him. I leave that to the listener to decide how they feel about that. But
I think on this podcast we vote, why not both?
Yes, why not both? But I feel like Cavill is an really interesting figure in that the partly the roles that he plays and also his physical stature make him sort of a cipher for a particular kind of masculinity that it's easy to project onto as the viewer. Like I rewatched The Witcher over the weekend as some research for this, and it's actually like the first viewing is like, oh yeah, he's like a hot plank of wood, basically, was my takeaway. But it's actually a much more nuanced performance than I give it credit for initially. I'm not sure where I'm going with this. This little tangent about The Witcher. Thanks.
I think that your all-encompassing research has proven that he is much more to the eye and a lot more mysterious, right? Am I getting that correctly?
I think my thing is like it's hard to get a beat on who he is, because I think by virtue of the way he looks and the roles that he has chosen, it's easy to project onto him whatever you want out of someone like that. I mean, he literally looks like a Tom of Finland drawing brought to life. And I will say, the gays know what I'm talking about. The straights should Google with safe search on. But if you Google Henry Cavill, Tom of Finland, you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, I just think I am just really like fascinated with the way that we as a culture construct and represent masculinity, and I think Cavill is a really interesting example of that, because it's like because his public persona is so sort of a blank slate, but he has this physical stature that like represents a certain brand of masculinity, and it's easy to project those things onto it.
And I think for somebody like Henry, in the range of roles that he's played, he truly is, let's say, a historical icon of showing what masculinity can be, right? Is that maybe perhaps what you're getting at?
I think to a degree, yeah. So here's the thing, like I could, if we want to talk about Superman, like I could go on at length about representations of Superman and as they relate to icons of masculinity, like, but that's a whole other show.
And we have to have you on for that episode
this
too.
Show. Yeah, maybe a different episode.
Yeah,
that's a whole other episode. I like, my first crush was Christopher Reeve, so like all other Superman pale in comparison. Or sorry, Superman's is the actually grammatically correct nomenclature. All other Superman's pale in comparison. I think I was not a fan of Man of Steel. I came out of the theater with little crescent moons in my palms because I was watching it with my fists clenched. And at the time, I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theater because I disliked it that much. But I didn't feel like Cavill was a particularly good Superman, but I think he was an ideal Superman for Zack Snyder, who deals in this particular kind of hyper masculinity, like macho, sort of hyper macho masculinity, and given his sort of stature and his blank slateness, I think that worked for what Snyder was going for, even though he was not, in the broader sense, a great Superman to my mind.
So would you in general say that Henry should stay out of the DCU, or should he have just been directed by somebody else? Or
I think he, especially having rewatched The Witcher, and also I watched Mission Impossible Fallout last night for the first time as prep. I think given a director or writer with a more nuanced perspective, I think he could be a great Superman. But given what we've seen in the sort of Snyderverse, it doesn't work for me personally.
okay. And in all, let's say an encompassing review of Henry with ties to his branding of the mystery of his social media and like the retelling of this, where would you rate Henry on the daddy scale?
Oh, I walked into this one.
Ben in this one.
I mean, definitely daddy. Not the daddiest, but definitely daddy. I mean, his Instagram is interesting because I think it does give a window into who he is, but in a very carefully curated way. I think especially with things like the Warhammer minis and the like the building the computer of the like, hey, but actually I'm totally a nerd and whatever. And I think that is genuine to a degree, especially the computer video, the way it's edited feels, whether he did or not, sort of feels like he put it together himself, which is really what matters.
Appreciated on many levels, I'm sure.
By which I mean the video itself. It's very clear that he built the computer himself, but the way the video is edited.
Yeah.
But certainly a daddy. He's not great at tagging his sponsored posts properly as someone who works in media, because all of those like he had this other video about this like rosemary water where he like went to Italy and talked to some people about why rosemary water is good for your health, which is very clearly a sponsored post but was not tagged as such. But it stuck in my mind because I was at my local natural food store, which I lovingly refer to as the hippie bullshit store, and walking down the water aisle and saw that rosemary water, and I was like, oh, that's that Henry Cavill water.
Did you buy it?
No, it was like $10 for a
You're
bottle.
Like, I love you, Henry,
like,
but no,
not worth it.
If, let's say, by some weird happenstance, Henry happened to stumble upon this episode, what would you like to say to him after telling his very bizarre and very open-ended Instagram history?
I would like to ask Henry if I can see the design of the tattoo and give him some notes.
I love that.
And also, just call me. Let's hang. Let's chat.
Y'all are local, right? Like, might as well. Just
I don't know where I think he is in England, is my guess. Okay. Also, the floral curtains in the computer video very much have like at mom's house energy. Big
England mom house energy.
Yes.
House in the hills. British mom.
Yeah. Like there's like a moor nearby with mist.
Oh my gosh. a Lavender Hill, maybe a 2-hour
there's
drive.
definitely some heather in the vicinity.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for giving us the complete rendition of the nonfiction version of Henry Cavill. It's Henry Cavill, right? Henry Cavill's
I think it's
Instagram.
Cavill, yeah.
I keep saying Cavill like a dumbass, but
I'll ask him. I'll hit him up later.
You'll just hit him up.
Yeah.
See, this is what Matt is good for. This is entirely.
I have everyone's email address.
Mm-hmm. Kate, you're amazing.
It's just henry.cavill@gmail, right?
No.
What if that? Please do not email that. That might actually be his email. We never know.
He's a Hotmail user.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't mean to put him on blast like that, but it is what it is.
But there is sorry not to digress again, but I'm also really fascinated by like Henry Cavill is in his like early 30s. Like most I am an elder millennial myself. Like most of these like most like famous millennials are also like don't understand technology and don't really understand social media. I don't understand how that's possible. Unless being really wealthy just means you don't involve yourself in those things.
What age range is canonically a millennial?
I am about to turn 38, so I turned 18 in 2000, so I graduated high school in 2000, so I think I'm the top end, give or take a year, of the oldest millennials. I'm not sure where the youngest range is, but if you're in your 30s, I think you're solidly a millennial.
Okay.
I think the youngest right now is if you're 23.
Okay, because
really?
Some people tell
23 or 26.
People tell me I am or I'm not, and I need something solid to stand on. I don't know what I am.
Yeah, you know? I think I like, depending on what you read, I am either an elder millennial or a zennial, which is like on the cusp of Generation X.
Elder millennial sounds cooler, and I think you should stand with that one just because you put elder in there.
Sounds
gives me
like
some authority.
You have authority and also like possibly magic.
Lovecraftian. Yeah. You get to say Stygian at the same time as elder millennial, and everyone will nod and get it.
Marvel at my cyclopean depression.
All of it, yeah.
I would like to ask Kate if there's anything specific she wants to talk about. More importantly, obviously, how we met. That's very important to me. And then also anything else she would like to share.
Totally. I mean, the way we met is an epic tale in and of itself, to be honest. Because we met at Emerald City 2019. I'm pretty sure it was Thursday. It was the first night of the con. And I get a text from our mutual friend, Jaslyn Stone, and said, I'm going to dinner with Liana Kangas. Do you want to come? And I said, yes. And then we went to a hibachi place, like 15-minute walk from the con, with like roughly 100,000 people.
It truly, the group did seem like arriving with an army versus a
like
small,
they were not ready to handle that many people, and we were there for like 4 hours. It felt like, in like a good way, but like we were there for a very long time trying to get food after the con.
First, can I ask, when Jasmine was like with Liana Kangas, were you like, who the fuck is that?
I will admit I did not know who you were.
Yes.
But I was like, if she's friends with Jazz, like, I'm down. It's gonna be good.
The true story of Jaslyn and how she brings everybody together.
Totally. And and like you had just had your big announcement of She Said Destroy, like earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And there was like a million other comics people, and I was like, I was just like, I hope all these comics people think I'm cool. I don't know any of them, and like sitting in the corner with Jaslyn. And then at a certain point, I was sitting right next to the chef, and he like flicked his spatula or whatever and splashed hot butter all over me.
I have to pause and not try to not laugh in that every person, the 25 of us or however many, first of all, probably thought you were really cool already. But when that happened, every person went white in the face and was like, holy shit, is she okay? Like almost kind of like crawling to get to Kate to be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like we were thinking like it was some sort of like Two-Face burn off, like situation that the butter had like attacked you and everything. And you were like, I'm fine. It's fine. I'm okay, guys. Do
Yeah.
not worry. And we were all like, she is so cool. How is she so put together? I can't understand this.
Right, which you've told me that. And like, but internally, like when we sat down to dinner, I was like, oh my God, I hope all these comics people think I'm cool.
I love that you say that because you're like literally the coolest. You are literally labeled the daddiest of our group. The
It's
daddiest.
true. I'm very flattered by that label. Though in point of fact, I am baby. And the assumption of my daddiness has plagued me.
It's so funny because we have legitimately the baby with us.
Yeah, I was about to ask, what is criteria of baby?
Well,
It's what I mean is a thing that I don't necessarily want to get into right now in public. I will gladly take the mantle of public daddy. This
public
is
daddy, yeah.
Public
This is-
daddy is different than private daddy, and that's it.
correct.
Good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
We'll just only reference baby to the Archie tweet, and we'll reference daddy to the meme level that is on social media. And
I
that's it.
actually became the like daddy arbiter at work.
Do explain.
I
I twirl my
So-
rhyme.
Super plaque, because I'll buy you that plaque.
I would fucking love that plaque. So, I work at Nerdist. I'm the head of production at Nerdist, and
Such a good segue.
somehow it like about a year, maybe 2 years ago at this point. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago at this point. My my slightly older male coworkers discovered the word daddy, and were trying to understand it, and why people on Twitter were saying daddy. And I tried to explain it to them. It is highly subjective, but in terms of my read of daddy is someone who is sort of non-toxically masculine in a attractive and appealing way.
I vote for this definition 1000%.
And also, if we're talking about cis men, a beard doesn't hurt. A certain stature is also associated
Mm-hmm.
in all these things that encapsulate daddy. And from that point, like, they would just come to me and be like, "Is so and so daddy?" And I would give the ruling.
You're the daddy voter.
I was the daddy arbiter, to the point where I was in a meeting at our parent company with like so our parent company is Legendary, who produced Skyscraper with The Rock, and my boss and I were in a meeting with the features marketing team to talk about our plans for integrating marketing with Skyscraper. And in the in the middle of this meeting, my boss turns to me and goes, "Is The Rock daddy?" And I said, "What is wrong with you? Why are we talking about this right now?"
He legally needed to know.
And then I sort of had to explain the concept of daddy to corporate, which was very uncomfortable.
You're like, no, this is not an HR nightmare. Let me explain this to you real quick.
Did they like it? Were they receptive to daddy?
Yeah.
They were like slightly confused and baffled. But then when I got back to the office and recounted to the rest of my coworkers, like, "You will not believe what this guy said to me in this meeting," ha ha ha. Our social media manager at the time decided to tweet at The Rock and say, "Are you dad or daddy. Actually, I think she posted a poll that was, is The Rock dad or daddy? And The Rock weighed in himself, replying that it depended on how much he had to drink. At any given time, he could be both.
I love that this entire story circles right back around to how important this podcast is. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that on many levels.
Yeah.
And before we wrap this particular section, I will make sure that we tag your Twitter and everything in the comments. But is there anything you want to leave with the listeners?
I mean, you know in your heart what daddy is. And
what level of daddy? Really?
And what level of daddy. And also check out all the great content on nerdist.com.
Amen.
Amen. Yes.